today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this, what is fast becoming one of the more popular segments here on the channel, Ring IQ Hate Mail, where I address the disgruntled customers that have a bone to pick with me. Regarding controversial Olympian Emain Khalif, who decided not to participate at the World Boxing event in Eindhoven 1 or 2 weeks ago, Death in Silence asked, "Why do you think she is a man?" To which I responded, "'Cause I have eyes."
Don't need to be an expert in biology to see that's a dude.
To which a Twitter user that goes by the name Maytaxia responded, "No, because you are a bully of women and you do not like it when they are stronger."
Emain Khalif is not a woman.
Move on. I have eyes. Bravo.
Not only do I have eyes, but I also have common sense. That if these controversial accusations regarding Emain Khalif aren't true, then why did Emain decide not to box in Eindhoven after having been scheduled to box there? Why did the athlete sit out? Is it because World Boxing is conducting karyotype testing, chromosomal testing, to determine who can compete in a category?
The same kind of chromosomal testing that the IBA conducted 2 years ago that saw Emain Khalif banned from the women's category.
Coincidence? I think not!
Stated quite plainly that men don't belong in women's sports. The circus is over. To which Maytaxia responded, "Which is what your parents should have said before they had you."
Well, I'm not the one that thinks being a woman is some sort of costume that you can just put on and take off at your leisure. There's a lot more to it than that. It's down to the chromosomes, and Emain Khalif has male ones.
That's what the tests show, so who's the clown?
You are.
First, they told us not to trust the IBA and their tests, that the IBA is corrupt, the IBA is lying, they were stripped of recognition, don't believe them, so that World Boxing can step in, conduct tests of their own that Emain Khalif doesn't want to participate in.
Even though everybody else is.
So why doesn't Emain Khalif participate? Because Emain Khalif is a man. And even if this is a situation, a DSD situation, for those not familiar with that acronym, DSD stands for Developmental Sexual Disorder, to where maybe the fighter was born with inverted testicles. Having testicles still makes Emain Khalif a man. The DSD in question affects biological males and the development of their genitalia, so it all really means the same thing.
It's a man.
Your particular brand of liberal logic borders on delusion that you would think someone's bullying a biological male for excluding him from a female category. Well, he's excluding himself, because if you want to compete amongst the women, go take the test. If the chromosomes come back XX, you're good to go.
If they don't, then you're out.
But if you're out, that vindicates Umar Kremlev and everybody at the IBA.
They were right.
When they initially handled this with some discretion, discreetly, it didn't make headlines. They didn't try to embarrass or humiliate anyone. It all happened behind the scenes. What the IOC came in and did was make the situation worse, allowing 2 banned athletes to compete, not just compete, but medal in the categories in the Olympic Games, when it never should have got that far, so that cartoon characters like Maytaxia can try to lecture me about who should compete in a category. The women's category is for women. XX athletes, that's what defines them.
Karyotype.
Not how they choose to define themselves. Being a woman is a state of being, down to the bones and the chromosomes. If you don't like the sound of that, well, stop requesting an audience with people that don't talk to you anyway. It's always these liberals going out of their way to argue with the masses, to argue with anyone exhibiting any kind of common sense, because they have none. They wish to acclimatize the surrounding environment, to mold it in their image.
Play that game by yourself.
The rest of the world doesn't have to be a party to your delusions. In a sport as violent, that is already as dangerous as boxing, least of all, it's dangerous enough as it is without giving biological men the okay to punch up on biological women.
On the premise of how they feel.
When what dictates reality has to be based on something more than feelings. What if I feel like I'm a bald eagle? Should I swan dive off a building on the premise that I'll fly?
Or does reality dictate that I'm gonna slam into the pavement because I'm not actually a bald eagle, and my brains will skid across the sidewalk like so much tire tread from a bike?
Call yourself whatever you like. Just don't expect us to participate in that. Don't expect us to call you that too. That ain't how life works.
That's why Main K. Leaf didn't box in Eindhoven. And even though there have been other world boxing tournaments in different regions of the world, Main K. Leaf has been mysteriously absent. I wonder why.
Men's lightweight news ahead of this weekend's mega card in the tri-state area. Shakur Stevenson takes issue with Turkey LL Sheik's crackdown on Tom and Jerry fights in boxing. It's about time somebody did something about it, as WBC lightweight champion Shakur Stevenson prepares for his long-awaited July 12th title defense against mandatory challenger William Zepeda. It has been hard to overlook the staggering size of the chips on both of his shoulders. Stevenson, 23-0 with 11 KOs, the 28-year-old southpaw and three-weight world champion who captured silver at the 2016 Olympics, has heard it all from his critics who claim he fights in a boring style and that promoters should consider mandating a smaller ring to prevent the slick native of Newark, New Jersey from using his legs to secure victory.
People want action, and that's the bottom line.
So as he prepares to make the third defense of his title against Zepeda, 33-0 with 27 KOs, following a particularly tough 2 years in the public eye, where Stevenson was criticized for being booed out of his home city in a title defense against Artem Hadatunian in 2024 before getting zero credit for stopping late replacement Josh Padley in February after Floyd Schofield Jr. pulled out. Stevenson is now firing back. F them. They don't effing matter. They aren't the ones getting in that ring. Stevenson told CBS Sports last week, I don't have to stand and fight somebody else's fight. I fight my own fight. And if I feel like standing in there and fighting, I'm doing that because I know I can win the fight. At the end of the day, it only matters if I come out victorious. I don't care what anyone else says or all these rules they are trying to fake put out.
I don't care is not an adequate response to the criticism that he's facing. I remember years ago when Guillermo Rigondeaux fought John Riel Casimiro for John's WBO title. He put on a performance in that fight like Shakur did with Edwin De Los Santos and like William Skull did with Canelo Alvarez. And you know what happened?
What happened?
He never boxed on Showtime again after that fight. After that fight, he never boxed on Showtime again, and he never boxed under the PBC banner again, because whether you like it or not, people don't want to see that shit.
The fight against Zepeda, a 29-year-old native of Mexico, will take place on the first boxing card to be held at the Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York, the site of the U.S. Open tennis tournament. The event will be the third Turkey LL Sheik under his new The Ring series, sponsored by the legendary magazine that LL Sheik purchased last year. While Stevenson went on record saying that he appreciates LL Sheik for making the fight, especially considering it was one Stevenson had been chasing for 2 years, he did take umbrage with the powerful Saudi Arabian advisor's new anti-running mandate meant to aggressively dissuade boxers from avoiding contact.
The Mayweather impersonators, the Mayweather clones. Nobody wants to see that shit. We don't need another Mayweather.
LL Sheik has vowed to eliminate what he calls Tom and Jerry boxing matches, which is likely a reference to the record-setting low CompuBox output that was delivered in fights on back-to-back nights in early May on LL Sheik cards involving Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Canelo Alvarez, and William Skull. In fact, LL Sheik repeated the warning throughout the recent Alvarez vs. Terrence Crawford multi-city press tour to promote their September 13th super fight.
Remember who's paying for all of this, and remember that without Turkey, Shakur wasn't going to get William Zepeda in the ring. Oscar was going to tuck him away and hide him. Remember that he held the fight to ransom for a signature from Shakur Stevenson. Remember that Oscar said that unless Shakur signs the Golden Boy, no fight.
So for making it happen and paying the fighters all of this money, Turkey wants action. We all do, at the end of the day, save a few boxing hipsters.
Yeah.
But the thing about hipsters is they often pride themselves on being edgy, unpopular takes and unpopular views, which in essence means, in being a hipster, you're in a minority.
You're in the unpopular crowd.
I'm disappointed in some of the things I have been hearing them say at the press conferences with the no running thing Stevenson said. At the end of the day, Bud Crawford has to put on amazing performances in the sport of boxing. I never saw a fight where he ran, So this is disrespectful to disrespect a legend like this.
Yeah, but Bud's not the one they're accusing of running. You are. You, Devin, William.
I never saw a Terrence Crawford fight where he ran either, but he's not the one people are talking about. You guys are. I think it's out of place using that line with any fighter, in my opinion. I just feel like we are all fighters, we all go through a long training camp, and we work super hard to come out here and deliver to the best of our ability. Now, if some guys want to move and use movement, that's just part of boxing. I have nothing bad to say about guys moving and using the ring. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, they have to be disappointed hearing some of that type of shit because they use the ring a lot. I just don't agree with that.
Point me in the direction of a Muhammad Ali fight that looked like Skull versus Canelo or Haney versus Ramirez. Point me in the direction of a fight like that. Yes, Muhammad Ali used a lot of movement, but he also threw a lot of punches, whereas you guys...
It's the lack of output that people really have a problem with, not so much the movement. But when all they're watching is movement and not output, that's when they take issue. When the fight was announced, Stevenson also shared publicly his disappointment with being placed against Zepeda in the co-main event as the chief support fight for the non-title super middleweight clash involving New York native Edgar Berlanga against Hamza Shiraz, a 26-year-old slugger from England who El Sheikh has big plans for, including a fight against Alvarez should Shiraz win.
You know who had Shakur Stevenson headlining his own shows? Top Rank. They had him as the main event every time he fought. But you decided to leave them. And since then, you've been boxing on undercards.
I mean, everybody would be upset, Stevenson said, but at the end of the day, I have nothing but respect for Turkey El Sheikh and Ring Magazine for the decisions they make behind closed doors. I don't have to do shit to do with that, but I know it has something to do with the Hamza Shiraz kid that Turkey likes. So, I get it.
Ticket sales for this show have unfortunately been abysmal. You heard so many people criticizing Turkey for bringing big-time boxing to Saudi away from an American audience, but here he is doing a show in America, doing a show in New York, and where are the people?
The whole card is a good card, a solid card top to bottom, and the tickets to the show ain't even expensive. So where are all these bleeding hearts angry that Turkey is poaching all the fighters and sending them to Saudi? He's doing a show in America, but where are they?
I told you, these people are useless. They just complain to complain.
El Sheikh's support of Shiraz also extends to Stevenson. If a recent social media post is any indication where the chairman of the Saudi Arabian General Entertainment Authority was criticized as a promoter by many in boxing for outright declaring his hope that both would be victorious because of the big fights he intends to make for each one, and that a loss for either one would be a complete disaster.
It was a tweet that even caught Stevenson off guard. I just don't know how real it is, said Stevenson in regards to El Sheikh's often trolling ways online. I have no clue if that's how he really feels or what side is. I don't know. So all I can focus on is my job and what I've got ahead. I'm coming in there to make sure none of that shit happens.
To make matters worse, Turkey El Sheikh took to his social media and stated, "We have a surprise for Shakur Stevenson on Saturday, a ring that shrinks as the fight goes on." Shakur says he's ready to deliver a beatdown to William Zepeda, and I know the Mexican is prepared for the challenge of the biggest fight of his life.
Wait a minute, the ring's gonna shrink as the fight progresses?
A veteran content creator, Punch Drunk Boxing, took issue with that tweet, saying, "I've said since day one, Aladdin looks at these fighters like toys. Shakur actually had a TKO in his last fight. These subliminal shots, it's getting carried away."
Okay, you had a TKO in your last fight, now go get another one, because people need entertainment. You understand that boxing is in decline in America. You understand that in the last 10 years, several major broadcasters have pulled out from the sport of boxing. NBC, Fox, Showtime, HBO, perhaps ESPN. We'll see. You understand?
Boxing needs to be exciting again because it was never intended for the wine and cheese crowd. Being so concerned whether or not Turkey is coddling the fighters and stroking their egos the way content creators do to get exclusives.
That's not helping anything.
Do you think that boxing needs more fights like Stevenson versus De Los Santos or Haney versus Ramirez, Canelo versus Skull?
Another content creator in Najee said, "Attention boxers. Don't let people try to trick you out of using your skills and footwork. All this Tom and Jerry talk is reverse psychology, hoping you don't use your advantages. Hit and don't get hit, but most of all, win. Shakur Stevenson won in Newark, New Jersey when he fought Edwin De Los Santos, and he still got booed. My tax consultant, Samir Azizi, said, win in boring fashion and be forgotten. Quite right. I'm not one of these content creators trying to be all buddy-buddy with the boxers, because the boxers themselves come and go. The boxers themselves rise and fall like the wheat. It's the sport I care about. The state of it. And in the last 10 years, you've seen major broadcaster after major broadcaster pull out from the sport of boxing because of all the things that are wrong with it. And one of the things that are wrong with it is these Mayweather wannabes, these Mayweather impersonators. Maybe if you guys actually sold as many pay-per-views as a Mayweather, sold as many tickets as a Mayweather, I could see. But look at the ticket sales for Shakur's upcoming fight. Co-main event or the main event. If you had it like that, the ticket sales would be doing a lot better. The only reason you're making the kind of money you're making for this fight is because Turkey's overpaying you. A lot of yous guys actually aren't good for the money that you ask for. So when Turkey makes a conscious effort to pay fighters in excess of what they're worth and what they generate, he wants action, and who could blame him? We want action too. You think people watch combat sports for the subtleties?
Most people watch them for the action, not the nuances.
And that's not saying that you can't appreciate the nuances from time to time. You certainly can. I do. But most of the time, I want to see guys go at it. Want to see a fight!
Not trying to see Shakur Stevenson do the electric boogaloo slide.
Slide to the left.
Left.
Slide to the right.
Right.
One hop this time.
One.
Two hops this time.
Two.
If the ring actually shrinks as the fight progresses and Shakur Stevenson can still win under those nuanced and novel circumstances, I think that would go a long way towards endearing him to the boxing fans, which is what he needs, whether he likes it or not.
He's not in high demand.
Needs something to get the fans back on his side. Boxers often liken themselves to gladiators, and in the Coliseum, they weren't just fighting guys, there were lions in there.
Tigers.
Archers, pikemen, chariots, you name it. So if the ring's gonna get a little bit smaller as the fight progresses...
Oh, that should make things interesting.